You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. All right, so Bobby Kennedy Jr., who I know he goes by Robert Kennedy, but Bobby Kennedy Jr. is what I call him. He really should go by Bobby Kennedy Jr. But anyway, this is amazing. I saw in the polls today, the latest Democrat poll, Robert Kennedy Jr. is at 14 points. He hasn't even done anything yet, and that's just how many points he's at. And again, this is a Democrat poll. And this is exciting, and let me tell you why it's exciting, okay? I'm not supporting Bobby Kennedy. I'm not supporting any Democrat or anything. But here's the deal. The media and the Democrat uniparty, because, you know, the Republican establishment, plan on next week Biden coming out and announcing he's running for re-election and just be anointed, you know, the nominee. And it's not going to work that way. You know, Robert Kennedy talks about a lot of things Democrats don't like to be talked about. And, you know, a lot of Democrats don't like this new Democrat Party with all this stuff going on.
I was just thinking he's like the old school Democrat.
Well, he's a Kennedy.
The Kennedys were.
He's a Kennedy Democrat. Well, he is a Kennedy. Yeah. So he's a Kennedy Democrat.
Exactly.
And
which is more conservative, really.
There are a lot of Democrat voters that feel they're being held prisoner by these very radical fringe lunatics that have taken over the Democrat Party, from climate justice to everything else. You know, I'm not going to go through a list. You know what they are. And a lot of people have contacted me this week. Why are you so excited? Why are you so excited? Because this is going to create a division inside the Democrat Party in a presidential election that benefits Trump. And see, Trump has a lot of opponents. None of them are credible. DeSantis, you know, Chris Christie, who's, you know, all these, none
Nikki
of them.
Haley.
Yeah, Nikki Haley. They're not credible competition.
No.
Okay. And when there's an incumbent president who's in the White House, it is very rare for them to have a serious challenger for the nomination. It's usually just assumed they get the nomination. Like in Trump's second run, he didn't have any opposition, right? And the Kennedys did this before. Okay. Ted Kennedy challenged Jimmy Carter for the nomination in 1980. Now, Jimmy Carter won the nomination, but he lost the election because there's so much division and upheaval inside the party. He didn't have a prayer on top of his other problems, but Jimmy Carter's problems that he had are very similar to Biden's: gas prices, inflation, interest rate, all these things, international troubles. So this is a total parallel of the Democrat 1980 race, and I'm excited. Not for Bobby Kennedy. I'm excited because this is just total Operation Chaos for the Democrats. And what came out earlier this week after Robert Kennedy made his announcement, plus his wife and him, they're in the Hollywood elite, right?
You know what I think also was good about it is he's going to show people what the Democrats once were and what they should be. There's going to be a difference in the radicalism. Joe's been radicalized, and there's going to be a difference when you hear him speak. And you're going to hear a lot of older Democrats. They're going to be like, "That's the Democratic Party I remember." And because a lot of people have forgotten. So what it's really like.
So what's going to happen is when whichever one of them gets the nomination, and it could be Robert Kennedy, but whichever one of them gets the nomination are going to be so damaged. The Democrat voters are going to be so ticked at each other. You know, all these climate justice warriors, the trans people, they're not going to vote for Robert Kennedy. And the Robert Kennedy Democrats ain't going to vote for Biden after he gets really crazy on the left with these lunatic groups. This is a great division. And what came out after he made his announcement, Robert Kennedy, that he was running, it came out officially that Steve Bannon had been working on him for months to get him to run and finally talked him into it. And he didn't just have Steve Bannon working on him, Robert Kennedy, to run. He had General Flynn and Roger Stone. So General Flynn, Roger Stone, and Steve Bannon recruited Robert Kennedy
But don't you
which
think
means Trump recruited Robert Kennedy, and they know exactly what they're doing.
True. Do you think, though, whoever wins the nomination, then the party's going to come together? I mean, there's always division in the primary.
No, because these radicals in the Democrat Party is being bullied by lunatic radical people,
for sure.
Okay? And there are a lot of people that are Democrats that are somewhat normal. They're still Democrats and support a lot of dumb things, but they hate these radical people. So whoever wins the nomination, half the party is going to stay at home on election day. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. And the fact that he was recruited by Bannon, Roger Stone, and General Flynn means Trump was involved in this, which means this is exactly what Trump wants. And today, Robert Kennedy released a video, a campaign video. It's his first campaign video. I want to play it for you. And it's longer than something I would normally play like this. It's a couple minutes long, but it will freak out. You know, when these radical lunatics in the Democrat Party that have been bullying it around for the last few years, to them, the Kennedys are so long ago, it's like Millard Fillmore time.
Young people aren't going to like it, but the older Democrats, I'm thinking 40 and over, are going to be like, this is a breath of fresh air. This is the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I remember this guy sounds normal and sane.
That's right.
He's not radicalized. And it's going to remind people what I think you're going to hear a lot of that on CNN and other things when they talk about him. They're going to be like, this is the way the Democrats used to be. And this is like
well, and then
a lot of people might like that.
And then the radical fringe are going to be freaking out, and they will never.
They're always freaking out.
They will never reunite. The Democrat voter turnout in the general election is going to be so depressed over this split. And remember, President Trump used to talk a lot in the first campaign about how you can say what you want about the Democrats. They always stick together.
Yeah.
Those days are over. So let me play this. This is Robert Kennedy, and this is his first campaign video. It's 2 minutes long, but I think it was really good. So I want to play it for you guys. So this is
The easiest thing for a politician to do is to appeal to our hatred and our anger and our bigotry and greed and xenophobia and all the alchemies of demagoguery. My father and my uncle had a vision for America, a vision of racial harmony, of prosperity for all Americans, of peace in the world, and of honest government. Their lives were tragically cut short, and America took a different path. Yet the possibility they foresaw is still alive, the America that almost was and yet may be. I've been fighting corporate corruption my entire life, but I understand that today the problem is much larger than a few crooked individuals. The problem is a system that no longer serves the people, and a people who are so divided and so fearful that they are easily ruled. It's time to unlearn the reflexes of fear and blame and find ways to unify ourselves and turn our country around. I won't pretend to you that it will be easy, but I know what it will take. My father said it: love, wisdom, and compassion toward one another. And that's where we need to start. We will scale down the war machine and bring our resources home. We will rebuild our water systems, repair our roads, modernize our railroads, and clean up our environment. We will also clean up government and earn back the people's trust. We will end the secrecy, the censorship, and the surveillance. We will again be a fearless land of liberty.
The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it.
We will face honestly the darker parts of our history, the genocide, the racism, not to shame or blame or punish, but to repair as best we can in a spirit of compassion and kindness toward all. I'm inviting all of you to join me to create an America that we can believe in and be proud of again. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm running for President of the United States.
Now, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
That's pretty good. And, these radical lunatics in the Democrat Party, to them, like AOC watches him and sees this old man and who's
moderate,
who's white, makes her sick from this old white guard, entitled, rich,
not
trust
radical
fund.
enough. Not radical enough.
Not radical at all.
Yeah.
So this is beautiful. And he's not going to be like Bernie Sanders where they can buy him off because he's already rich.
Yeah. And I think there's a whole thing with him continuing his father's legacy and his uncle's legacy. And I think he's trying to bring back like I said, that older, a little more conservative Democratic Party that wasn't radicalized. The party has really lost their way. Both parties have.
We want the Democrats to lose
the government is so corrupted, and you have the uniparty now, and all they do is bicker and fight. I'm not saying it wasn't always that way, but both parties are pretty useless. I mean, when you think about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why
there's a few good apples, but not many.
No, that's why they hate Trump, because he's so good, and he's actually doing things. That's why they hate the guy. So I just want to be clear. I'm not supporting Bobby Kennedy. I'm just telling you, I'm supporting Bobby Kennedy destroying the Democrat Party, because Bobby Kennedy, as great as he may sound to a lot of people, he's still a Democrat. They're pro-abortion. He's they're still hardcore liberal on a lot of things, but because he's not talking about some things that BLM or the trans people talk about, he sounds conservative. He's not a conservative. He's a liberal Democrat.
Well, he's very pro-American, which the radical liberals
they hate. Well, they hate that.
It'll be interesting in the debates if Biden, when they go after Biden, when these other Democrats, who else is running in the Democrat? Robert?
That's it.
I think more people might come
along. No one's serious.
So it's just going to be the two of them.
Yeah, probably.
It'll be interesting when all these things with Biden and Hunter and all these things come up, and this revelation of the CIA and all this. He can't sit there and deny it like he did before. All this stuff has come to light. More is going to come out. Marjorie Taylor Greene's on top of this. So when he's confronted with this stuff and with this corruption and everything he's done, he can't just sit up there and be like, well, that's not true. And my son's a good boy and blah, blah, blah. That's not going to wash this time. Everybody knows his dirty little secrets. And I'm really but there's a lot of people, if you go on Twitter, that just love Joe Biden. But maybe, Democrats, maybe if they see an alternative, some of them, especially the older ones, might be like, you know what? This guy sounds sane and he's more middle of the road. He sounds more, because I really still believe most people in this country are pretty much middle of the road on things and don't like the constant fighting and just want to live in a safe country, that are patriotic, work hard. And I think most Americans are that way. But he's right. The politicians want to divide everybody because it's a way to control you. And that's exactly what they do. They don't want us all getting along and working together. It's better for them to be in power if we hate each other and are at each other's throat. Divide and conquer.
That's right. That's right. And, one thing that Bobby Kennedy here will talk a lot about, though, are things that do make a lot of sense, because what he talks about a lot, and he's even referenced it in the campaign already, is how the deep state killed his father and his uncle because they opposed the military-industrial complex war in Vietnam. And I've mentioned this several times.
Crazy.
Megyn Kelly, 6 months, a year ago, did an interview with him, and he talked all about it. And he said his uncle was going to draw down the number of troops in Vietnam. He got killed. The next day, Johnson increased the number. His father was running for president for the nomination in 1968 on a campaign platform of 100% withdrawal from Vietnam. He was killed, and then Nixon won and increased our presence in Vietnam. So the Kennedy assassination used to be a thing of conspiracy nuts about how the deep state was our. Yeah. And now what we've seen in the last few years with what they've done to President Trump, this story came out today that the CIA director got 50 intelligence officers, 50 spies, to sign a letter saying that the Hunter laptop was Russian disinformation just to help Joe Biden and discredit this true story. And so all these conspiracy theories about—
he said that himself under oath. So
yeah, well, he was testifying to Congress. Yeah. He didn't want to lie. It's
not a rumor. He said it himself.
Yeah. The Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories are no longer conspiracy theories because we've seen the deep state at work against President Trump. So it's believable now.
Oh, yeah.
And when he is out there talking about those things, the Democrat Party, and he's at 14 points already, he hasn't even started because of who he is. The Democrat Party are going to work hard to discredit him because he wants to unmask the deep state, which Trump also wants to do. Yeah. And I got to tell you something. This is a really crazy thing, and I made this a thumbnail.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. What you're going to say.
I made this a thumbnail on one of my YouTube videos earlier this week, and people told me, "Oh, it's clickbait." I don't do clickbait. I know a lot of people do clickbait. I don't do clickbait. And I said in my thumbnail, I said Robert Kennedy Jr., Trump's 2024 running mate. And
wouldn't that be something?
Of course, Trump would have to be at the top of the ticket, but I would not mind Bobby Kennedy working with President Trump either as his running mate or in a capacity in the administration with the goal of dismantling the deep state. The
Secretary of State?
I don't know. The Secretary of Dismantling the Deep State.
He could create a whole new position.
The deep state, look at what they've done. We know, all right? I'm not going to go through you guys know what they've done since Trump came down the escalator. They're not even doing it in secret anymore. And Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump see eye to eye on that issue and could work together to bring down these evil forces.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to start paying attention to him a little bit more. It's interesting what he said, how different the country would be if his uncle and dad had lived. And the reason it would be so different is because Vietnam, I've always said this to Brian, Vietnam to me in the 20th century was like a country-altering event.
Oh, yeah.
All war is. But that war specifically was a turning point in this country. And I think before Vietnam, it was a time of innocence and tradition and family values. And you didn't see them as many drugs and this and that. I'm not saying it was perfect, obviously. But after Vietnam, I feel, was a huge shift in this country and in the culture. And if Vietnam had never happened, I think the country would be I'm not saying be perfect, but I think it would be markedly different.
Well,
Don't you? If there was no Vietnam War, I think that was a turning point culturally in
what
this
happened
country.
with Vietnam is the communists took over the education system and a lot of other things too, but the education system in particular and all this liberal stuff we're dealing with today came right out of that. Yeah, it's
exactly.
True.
I mean, if it never happened, I think it would have the country would be very different right now.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think a lot of radicalism came out of that movement. You have all these hippies now that are like, older and involved in things. They're in their 70s and whatever. And they grew up in that time. And you wouldn't have any of that, like hippie movement or radicalized, like you said, communist sympathizers. So like Jane Fonda.
No. So this is really an exciting time for the Democrat Party to be in this self-destruct mode is a beautiful thing, and that's exactly what we mean. And the media,
interesting to watch.
The media is liberal, and they would normally be behind Biden, but the media have a thing for the Kennedys, and they can't control themselves around the Kennedys. What's going to be interesting is his cousin, Carolyn Kennedy, President Kennedy's daughter, is the ambassador to Australia for Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to get her over here at some point to try to stop her cousin.
Does she live there?
She's the U.S. ambassador to Australia.
Oh, I didn't know she moved to Australia.
Yeah, well, you got to. She's the ambassador. She's there. I don't know what she was the ambassador to Japan. She did a great job. Now she's in Australia. Wrecking our agreements there. But they're saying that the Kennedy family is going to oppose him. I really haven't seen that too much yet. But the Kennedy family...
That would be really crappy if they did. I'm sorry. That says a lot about them as a family.
Well, the Kennedys are very... People don't realize how much power the Kennedys have still in the Democrat Party. The Kennedys are the ones who got Obama the nomination. And if you remember, Obama was recruited by the Kennedys to run.
Well, he's part of that group.
They did it through Harry Reid, caught Hillary off guard, and then the Kennedy family came out and endorsed Obama over Hillary, and that was it.
That Ted Kennedy did that,
and Carolyn Kennedy, and that was the end of it for Hillary. And
that's true.
And 08. So
that was the beginning of them because once they endorsed him, everybody did.
So the Kennedys have a very, very strong legacy in the Democrat Party still, and if they go after Robert Kennedy here, it could tarnish that. They may not get involved because they don't want to go after him and then fail on getting him to drop out, because I don't think he cares. I think he talks about all the things that they don't want people talking about.
What do they still make money from? What is he involved? I know Trump's are into business.
The Kennedy family have a ton of money. They got a
from
huge trust.
Bootlegging? I mean,
the Kennedy trust is huge. Yeah, sure.
What have they invested it? Have they?
I don't know what the trust is in. But
what do they do in their free time? Does he work?
They were like billionaires of the day, so they got a lot of money. And they're
Well,
always
the Vanderbilts lost all their money.
No, they didn't lose their money. The Kennedys have their money, and the Kennedys are always on this board and that board with all these jobs. They always have ways to make money. Believe me, they're very well off.
Now, what'll be interesting is the one guy, Joe Kennedy, with the
They weren't
chapstick
billionaires,
on his
but
lips.
adjusted for inflation, they were like billionaires.
But who's the guy that had the lipstick on? What was his name? That spoke, and everybody thought he'd be so great, and then he had like lipstick on his mouth. He was a Kennedy. Was he named Joe Kennedy? He's named after the grandfather. Remember?
Yeah.
How is he? He's Bobby Kennedy's grandson, right?
I can't. I know who you're talking about.
I wonder where he's going to fall with supporting, because he is a politician.
He might be from Ted Kennedy. I can't read. There's so many.
He's Ted Kennedy's son.
Yeah.
So it's confusing.
Yeah,
I wonder where he will fall. Not that it matters, but he did just go on a trip to Ireland, I think, with Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was with him. So it'll be interesting to see. But let me tell you something. If they don't support their relative, I think that's really says a lot about them.
It'd be crappy.
That they're really, crappy people. I mean,
Well,
that's their
Kennedys.
family, and you stick with family unless, he's a raving lunatic. Maybe they think he is, but he sounds pretty normal to me.
Oh, yeah.
I want to, before you move on real quick, I want to mention one thing. Nikki Haley, her daughter got married, right?
Oh, really?
And beautiful girl. And she had this was in the Daily Mail. She, had a white wedding dress on, and they had a picture of it. And Nikki Haley, they said in the Daily Mail, was wearing a white dress.
I saw that.
Well, that's a major faux pas. You don't wear a white dress as the mother of the bride, because that's the
weird.
bride is the only one in white.
Yeah.
She said the dress was gold. Okay. I saw a picture of it. It looked like a wedding dress, and it looked white to me. Now, it might have been a light gold, but it was a faux pas on her part. You don't wear a dress that looks like a bridal dress.
Well, Nikki Haley,
when the bride is getting married there.
Nikki Haley, when Trump had to fly to New York to surrender to this Soros attorney up there, Bragg, she was at the southern border that day, and she was with the press, and she's like, I don't understand why this isn't on TV, why they're covering Trump. She's a very self-centered person.
Obviously.
And she probably did that to take the attention away from her own child.
That's why, of course.
Which tells you what kind of twisted person Nikki Haley is. Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be right back.
Brian Craig here. Are you looking for a reliable scooter sales and repair shop? Look no further than Anything Scooters. When my scooter broke down, Anything Scooters took care of everything for me and had me back out on the road in no time. At a great price, too. They have a huge inventory of scooters for sale, both new and used. They offer financing. They also accept trade-ins on all new and used scooter purchases. So don't let that old scooter gather dust in the garage. Trade it in and get a great deal on a new ride. If you're looking to upgrade your scooter's performance, they've got you covered. Their expert technicians can handle anything from simple oil changes to engine rebuilds, even high-performance modifications. At Anything Scooters, they use only top-quality oils and replacement parts to ensure that your scooter runs like it should. They're very friendly and they have great customer service. Visit anythingscooters.com or give them a call directly. 954-226-8710. 954-226-8710. 954-226-8710. Online, anythingscooters.com. Robert Allen Miltenberg invites you to time travel with him to the Roman future. His new novella, available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. It's the golden age of Rome, a time of peace and prosperity. And Scadius Commodius Lavatorius is its greatest scientist. But for all he's achieved, one question haunts him. Will Rome survive the test of time? There's only one way to find out. Come along on this cosmic romp of an adventure. See if you can read the signs any better than a brilliant scientist can. Prediction, science fiction, allegory, national glory. This is a satire at its most gladiatorial. Center stage in the Circus Maximus of your mind. A story of time machines and timeless politics, strange Roman cuisine and gambling parlor tricks, spinning gold and crossing the river Styx. That's the Roman future. Available on Kindle and paperback. Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble now and visit The Roman Future by Robert Allen Miltenberg today. Are you tired of sifting through biased news stories? Are you looking for a news source free from personal opinions and obvious political bias? Look no further than NewsGPT.ai. NewsGPT.ai is the world's first news channel generated entirely by artificial intelligence. That's right, no reporters and no bias. The sole focus of NewsGPT.ai is to provide you with accurate and reliable news for free. Unlike other news sites, the stories on NewsGPT.ai are not influenced by advertisers, political affiliations, or personal opinions. Everything you see is generated by AI, ensuring that all stories are fact-based and unbiased. NewsGPT.ai is committed to delivering the news you need to know in a way that's easy to understand and free from any agenda. Stay informed with the top AI-generated stories delivered directly to your inbox. NewsGPT.ai. Real news by fake people. Are you tired of that same old hairstyle? Do you want to switch things up and stand out from the crowd? Look no further than Dread Cabrit. Dread Cabrit specialize in boho locks, a freeform version of faux locks, available in different colors and including hair. Their bohemian locks are handmade with love and utilize crochet locks, a crochet hook, and additional extension hair to create that perfect look. And don't forget about their famous extra curly hair used in mastering the boho locks process. It's the perfect combination of goddess locks and traditional faux locks. At Dread Cabrit, they celebrate real, authentic brilliance in women and men who believe in themselves. Book your appointment today and let love be in the hair. Find them on Instagram at Dread_Cabrit. That's KABRIT. Or call them directly 561-708-0554. 561-708-0554. Dread Cabrit, because your hair deserves to be loved.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Now, I know some people think I have Ron DeSantis derangement syndrome, and I don't. I used to love this guy until he showed his true colors a few weeks ago. And today, President Trump got another endorsement. Yep. And so far, as of now, this could change any second. It's changing all the time. But today, President Trump got the 11th endorsement from a Florida elected official. Representative Carlos Gimenez is the latest Florida Republican, this is in the Daily Mail, to endorse Donald Trump over DeSantis for president. And he has 11 of them. 11 of them. If I'm not
mistaken, all 11 are from Florida.
Yeah, no, these are 11
That's
Florida.
And DeSantis has 0.
Well, that's why it's a big deal, because Trump has 11 endorsements from Florida, okay? And DeSantis has 0. DeSantis is so unpopular in Florida, and he's so checked out. Like, the gas situation seems to be taking care of itself. I drove by a gas station just a little bit ago, and I didn't see a line, didn't see it to be a problem.
It's resolved now.
But we had this gas shortage that lasted for 3 or 4 days. And before the last few weeks, people that are outside of Florida, we would talk about it on the podcast. But Florida is a very big state. I don't think people realize how big Florida is.
Yeah.
It is very big, and the state's very different as you go in different parts of the state, the Panhandle, Central Florida, South Florida. We're in Southeast Florida, and there's always something happening in Florida. And prior to him exposing himself a few weeks ago to being fake MAGA, every day he had a press conference somewhere in Florida that was dealing with an issue here in Florida. And since he outed himself, he's just totally abandoned us. And this gasoline shortage we have this week, even Marco Rubio made a video posted up online yesterday about it. He didn't even address it, not once. And he's not even here. I saw a picture of DeSantis earlier. He's up in Ohio with his wife and kids campaigning. He is getting ready to take a trip to South Korea, Japan, the UK, and Israel. He's just abandoned us here in Florida, and people are pissed. And he is.
It's true. I don't know he used to do a press conference from somewhere. Remember, I used to say on the show, every day this guy's in a new city in Florida, literally every day with his family, going around, meeting with restaurant owners, meeting with local. The guy was a workhorse, meeting with local business people. Literally every day he'd go from Orlando to Tampa. I don't know when the last time he was home.
There was a gas station that opened here in Florida, a Buc-ee's, right, which is like this massive gas station.
In Daytona.
He went to the grand opening.
Exactly.
Adam the Woo on YouTube, he has a channel, The Daily Woo, and Adam the Woo. He has 2 channels. The Adam the Woo channel, he was there at Buc-ee's. He interviewed Governor DeSantis, Adam the Woo.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that seems kind of a ridiculous thing, but now he's never in Florida. He doesn't address us. He's abandoned us. And all these quotes you hear about him with Disney are all out of state. And the local news here in our community in Palm Beach County, which, you know, we're in the same county as Mar-a-Lago, the local news we're interviewing people today about Governor DeSantis, and they are pissed because of the gas, and they were saying these are just regular people that don't really even follow politics. It's like this obsession he has with Disney. You hear that from a lot of people, this obsession he has with Disney. And he is out of touch with how much people are ticked off at him.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to one of my friends from college, my sorority sister, and she lives in Orlando, and she's conservative. She made a very good point, which is very interesting, because she got married at Disney too, okay?
Yeah.
And she made a very good point. She said, it's so ironic that he got married at Disney. And then she said, I wonder how his wife feels, because obviously she's a huge Disney fan because she got married there. She said, you only get married at Disney if you're really a big Disney fan.
Very
it's very
expensive. Very expensive.
There's a waiting list. And my friend that got married there, she had the Cinderella carriage. She did the full 9-yard thing, okay? And she said, if she got married there, she loves Disney. And she said, I wonder how she feels about all this, about him attacking Disney. And I thought that was I never thought about it that way. I don't know if it bothers her. She's obviously a Disney fan. She got married there. She said she has a lot of good memories. I mean, if you went after Disney, I love Disney. I know they're not perfect. A lot of people don't like them, but I have a lot of great memories living in Florida my whole life. And if you had this battle with Disney, it might bother me a little bit. I'd be like, and a lot of people, I don't know anybody on the right or the left, especially on the right, who has said this is a good idea for DeSantis. Like Larry Kudlow said, he is going to embarrass himself. He's at the point now. I mean, I don't know anybody that's saying this is a good strategy.
The guy that runs Disney, his name's Bob Iger, and I actually read his autobiography. I got it on tape, the audiobook, and he's very interesting. Bob Iger is very well connected.
That's my watch.
That's okay. He's very well connected in politics. He always has been. And when he was younger, in the 1970s, he worked on the Wide World of Sports, the days when Howard Cosell was on Wide World of Sports. This is Bob Iger that runs Disney now. And in the 1970s, he negotiated personally with North Korea, and Wide World of Sports became the first U.S. Network to broadcast a sporting event from North Korea in the 1970s. And Bob Iger was like a nobody back then. He just worked on Wide World of Sports, the guy that runs Disney. He worked that out with North Korea, right? I mean, that's crazy, dealing with Kim Jong-un's, daddy and all this stuff.
So he has better foreign policy experience than DeSantis.
So if this guy can get TV cameras with Wide World of Sports in North Korea in the 70s, he's pretty advanced compared to DeSantis. DeSantis is way out of his league. And Larry Kudlow was on Fox talking about this the other day, and he said there's no way that he can win this. He's out of his league with Bob Iger.
I agree.
And he should but he's become obsessed with it.
Like you said, it's like Captain Ahab with Moby Dick.
It's Moby Disney.
I agree with you
Ron
on
DeSantis is Moby Disney.
I haven't heard anybody make that comparison, but I think that's a fair assessment. And like I said, I haven't heard anybody who analyzes this who says this is a good thing for him. And he's going to just keep doubling down. And there's so many more other important issues to deal with. Now, he's still governing. I mean, they just passed the abortion restriction for 6 weeks, which is great. And he's still, passing laws and doing things. They just extended the Don't Say Gay bill now, and you can't discuss anything involving gender in any classroom of any grade. That just passed. K through 12, You cannot discuss gender issues. So he just extended that. I mean, he's, these are hardcore conservative ideas, and that's good. I don't think that belongs in the classroom at all. I think kids kids are stupid these days. They don't even know how to spell or anything. What needs to be in the classroom is the, reading, writing, and arithmetic and all that, and spelling, not, what's your gender. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, but this whole thing with Disney, I don't understand it. And I know that started because Disney made a threat. They were going to donate to get him out of office. He took that very personally and did this. I thought it was, at the time, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I supported it. But now, because, there needs to be some regulation maybe, but now it's like this thing happened and it's just going back and forth like a really bad tennis game.
The thing with DeSantis and Disney is
both sides are going to lose, by the way.
They beat him. He didn't know it until it was over. And what I keep saying, if he can't beat Mickey Mouse, how's he going to take on Putin?
I mean, both sides must be spending a fortune on attorneys.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's paying for DeSantis's lawyers.
We are.
I personally don't like my tax dollars.
Well, that's the least of it.
Going to this,
That's
but anyway, they're expensive. They're like $600 an hour, these lawyers.
I'm so happy that DeSantis did all this, because if he would have kept his mouth shut and continued to lie to us, we wouldn't have known he was fake MAGA until after he was the second MAGA president in 2028. Then we'd find out all this stuff, and he blew it. Now, today, the Supreme Court, they're allowing the abortion pill to be on the shelves and everything.
Temporarily.
This thing with the abortion pills and everything else, this is the thing with abortion. In 1973, when Roe v. Wade, when that decision was made, medical technology was not as advanced as it is today. That's 50 years ago. Think about it. Mm-hmm. We're basing a decision on abortion today with rules and regulations and laws based on medical science of half a century ago. Think about it this way. In 1973, would you base any medical decision based on medical technology from 1923?
And Brian, I've
so.
never heard anybody make that argument other than you. And I think it's one of the best arguments for this, because in the 70s, there was not only the medical things, but there was a huge stigma against women having babies out of wedlock.
It's
not
now.
like that anymore at all. Now it's like a badge of honor. And there's more birth control options available as well than there were back then.
There was really nothing to
It
speak
was
of.
hard for women to get the pill back then in the early 70s. Now they can get it anywhere. I mean, things have definitely changed. Ultrasounds have changed. I mean, you're right. It needs to be reevaluated, reassessed.
Just based on the medical advice.
Exactly.
A baby was not viable outside the womb as early as a child is today.
Absolutely.
They could see inside the womb a little bit back then, but not like they can today. There's all kinds of advancements that did not exist back then, and it was the right thing for them to turn over Roe v. Wade. But so far as this abortion pill, it's just, to me, that's just too convenient of a thing. It's just too convenient of a thing, and I support the ban on the abortion pills.
What about the way it was in the 90s when the abortion pill first came out? I remember, because I was in college at FSU, and the way it worked back then, I never used it, but the way it worked back then, from what I understood, is you could get it with a you'd have to go to the doctor.
That's over the counter
first.
now. It's like over the counter.
Well, I'm saying, what if they put it back to that? Now you can get it at Walgreens, but back when it first came out, it was called Plan B, and you had to go to a doctor to get a prescription.
Yeah.
And if they took it back to that, and I mean, I don't like it at all, but if they took it back to that, where you had to go and discuss it with the doctor, and maybe a doctor who is level-headed, would be like, really analyze it and talk to the patient and give them both sides of the thing.
Yeah.
But to be able to just go and buy it like it's nothing. Do you think this is going to be the Democrats seem to think that this is going to be the deciding issue in 2024, this abortion thing?
They're out of their mind.
Roe v. Wade. I really don't think it is.
And I know they're out of their minds because there aren't really protests about this.
There's not.
No, and the thing about abortion is when you look at the people that are of childbearing years, half of them today are gay. So they don't have the kind of sex you get pregnant at. The other half, a quarter of them, don't know what gender they are.
The birth rate's definitely down.
So the generation of men and women of childbearing years aren't even interested in like reproductive sex, that kind of sex, So they don't care about this issue. The only people that care about it are like Dianne Feinstein and Hillary Clinton age, a whole bunch of bunch of old biddies
or lesbians.
and you can tell by the
man haters.
You can tell by the lack of protest when Roe v. Wade was overturned. I thought for sure when Roe v. Wade was overturned there would be nationwide marches against it, and there was nothing because people really have moved on. But the thing about the abortion pill, Donald Trump overturned Roe v. Wade, okay, by putting great Supreme Court justices
greatest
on the
legacy by far.
But the Democrats played a big role. Planned Parenthood played a big role in overturning Roe v. Wade because they pushed for that abortion pill. Back in the 90s, the abortion pill, I remember what its name was. It was called RU 486.
I thought it was Plan B.
That's what it was named after it was approved.
Oh, okay.
But before it was approved, they called it RU 486. And the reason I remember that is Steve and I used to call it RU 486ing babies is what we used to call it.
Oh, that's right.
And I can remember that so clearly. And the plan,
maybe that's what it meant.
The abortion activist pushed for the abortion pill, and the abortion pill put surgical abortions out of business.
Yeah.
So the surgical abortion to people of childbearing years is not even on the radar anymore.
I bet there's girls that stock up on that pill. Young college girls, they might buy one a week and have they're like $30, $40. I've seen them at Walgreens.
You can buy them on Amazon.
They might have 10 in their medicine cabinet just ready to go in case, the condom breaks or whatever. I don't like any kind of abortion at all, but I think life begins at conception. But it sure as hell is better than having an abortion at 3 or 4 months. If you have to pick and choose.
The first step would be by prescription. I agree. And then ban it. You got to do it in steps,
right?
If you want to win, in some of these places. Now, a lot of places will be able to just ban it, but a lot of places won't. You got to do it in steps. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's so much more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Back after this.
Money can be a complex and overwhelming topic, but it doesn't have to be. If you're looking for a podcast that simplifies the complexities of finance, money, and investment, look no further than the Swan Effect Podcast, available on all podcast platforms. Hosted by women who work in the world of finance, they dive deep into the gray areas of finance and empower listeners to make better money decisions. The Swan Effect offers financial wellness and financial literacy tips to improve your relationship with money. With a tribute to the late co-creator and co-host of Season 1, Lucille, The Swan Effect is proud to continue elevating the important message of financial wellness and financial literacy globally. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all major podcast platforms. Add The Swan Effect Podcast to your podcast playlist right now and take control of your finances today. Are you looking for a podcast that will uplift and inspire you to achieve your goals? Look no further than Inspire Your Life, the podcast that features real stories from real people doing extraordinary things. Whether you need a boost to overcome your own limitations or just want to hear some uplifting sentiments, Inspire Your Life has you covered. Topics range from battling difficulties to designing your life and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Add Inspire Your Life to your podcast playlist right now. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and wherever you get your podcast. Get ready to ignite your enthusiasm and take your life to the next level with the Inspire Your Life podcast. Do you need stamps or shipping supplies? Look no further than Postal 23, an online store for all your postal needs. Right now, Postal 23 is having a 25% spring sale off everything store-wide. But that's not all. Postal 23 sells exclusive and unique items like the 2022 Forever stamps, the U.S. flag USPS first-class postage stamps coin roll, and the stamp roll dispenser. And for the little ones, check out the Postal Delivery pullback truck with a roll of 100 Forever stamps. This is a 1/34th scale replica that has doors that open, and it's made by Kintoy. But hurry, this authentic Postal Delivery pullback toy is only available while supplies last. Don't miss out on these unique items and the spring sale at Postal 23. Visit them online right now at postalannex23.com. That's the number 23. postalannex23.com. Start shopping right now. Are you tired of feeling stuck in the same old patterns and behaviors in life? Are you struggling with trauma, shame, and limiting beliefs? You're not alone. And the book, I Cried All the Way to Happy Hour, available on Amazon, is the help you've been searching for. Written by author Brian D. Mahan, I Cried All the Way to Happy Hour is a beginner's guide to understanding trauma, shame, and how they influence your thoughts, words, and your actions. In this life-changing book, you'll learn about the wounding experiences that create beliefs about yourself, about others, and the world around you, and how to break free from the vicious cycle that they create. This book can help trauma survivors, especially those who may not even realize that they are trauma survivors. With a focus on a body-based approach to healing, you'll gain the tools and resources you need to fast-track your personal transformation and build a strong foundation for a happier life. Stop chasing down your symptoms and heal the root causes of your struggles. And order your copy of I Cried All the Way to Happy Hour from author Brian D. Mahan, available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback, and start your journey to a brighter future.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We took a few days off this week from the podcast. Some of you may have noticed. And the reason we did that is our daughter surprised me for my birthday. My birthday was yesterday. And earlier this week, without letting us, well, Kathy knew. I didn't know.
I flew her in.
I didn't know. She just showed up. And actually, the last podcast we did, I think, was Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I was editing the podcast and in my studio here at the house, and our daughter just walked in. I thought she was in California and freaked me out. I was like,
totally surprised you.
I've never been surprised like that before.
Yeah, Emily and I called her like a week or so ago, a week before your birthday. Yeah. And we were talking, and I said, why don't I fly you home for your dad's birthday?
Yeah.
And she said, okay. I said, all right. So I bought her a ticket. And I said, well, won't tell him. Let it be a total surprise. And your mom knew because your mom picked her up at the airport.
Yeah.
And I told her, let me know. So your mom texted me. We're on our way. And then you were, like you said, editing. And they pulled up. And she walked in the door. I left the door open. And I was like, shh. And she kind of tiptoed in the room. But it's really nice. And she's staying here a week. So she'll be here 11 days total. It's been very nice. And we miss her a lot. But she and I have been talking, and she always says to me, there's a lot of liberals out there in California. And she was talking to me yesterday about all this. And she said, Mom, liberalism works good in theory, but it just has no common sense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so glad you're like not brainwashed by living in California. And her friends are more liberal, and she's actually turning them more conservative because she's like explaining things to them and how it really works. And she said they just don't know any different because they live out there. They have it's always been liberal. And then she said something to me that was kind of sad. She said, when it comes time to vote, because if she becomes an official resident, she said, I'm not even going to bother voting because my vote won't count. Yeah. And I said, the problem is so many in California feel that way. But if all the conservatives voted, I said, they might even turn the state red. But they all feel like that, like there's no point in voting. I said, you need to vote. But she said that's how everybody feels that's conservative, that it's a waste of time.
Well, like here in Florida,
that's sad.
We're called the Sunshine State. You know how states have names like the Show Me State, we're the Sunshine State. California should really be the virtue signaling state.
Well, they always called it the lands of fruits and nuts.
But
what is it called?
The land of fruit and nuts?
No, isn't it the Golden State?
I think it's the Golden State. Yeah,
it's a beautiful, beautiful state.
But it's
very pretty.
Yeah, it's like communism in the Soviet. It sounds great until you do it and it doesn't work.
That's what she said.
And that's the whole thing. And, I remember once.
It's good on paper.
This probably isn't a great analogy, but it's kind of an analogy. Many years ago, I went to Peru with my friend. A friend of mine is Cuban, and he grew up in Miami. Mm-hmm. And so, he's like a Spaniard. And he got it in his brain that he could move to Latin America and live like a king on like $500 a month or something. So he traveled.
Why Peru?
Well, that was like last on the list. He traveled to pretty much, not every, but he traveled to many countries in Latin America thinking he could move. Yeah. And everyone was a third world pit of hell. But
they are. But
I went to Peru with him, and we were in Lima, Peru, and we went, and there was a bowling alley. I'm like, oh, let's go to the bowling alley, And I want to see what a bowling alley
so
is
American.
like in Peru. And this bowling alley was like no bowling alley I'd ever seen. It's like whoever built it had never been to a bowling alley. They saw a picture of one in an American magazine.
Oh, wow.
The bowling balls weighed like 85 pounds. It was like so bizarre. It was so bizarre. And that's how it is in California. It's kind of like this image of a utopia that could be, and they've applied it and it's failed. But anyway, so our daughter came home for my birthday, and so I've been kind of, took a little bit of a break a few days from the podcast.
Right.
And we had converted her bedroom when she moved out into a, like an activity room for Kathy. And so,
art studio.
Yeah. So we put together a kind of a guest room, so we got a bed, we got a twin bed, and you had ordered the 3-inch MyPillow mattress topper 2.0.
That's right.
For the guest bed. And I wondered why you went to the trouble of buying a mattress topper for a bed that nobody sleeps in. And it came early and it came very quick, and it still didn't tip me off that our daughter was coming home.
I didn't
I'm surprised.
want to tell you.
But the
Brian's so busy he doesn't pay attention half the time.
But the MyPillow mattress topper 2.0, it's an upgrade on the previous MyPillow mattress topper, and the difference is it has the cooling technology in it. And I went and laid down on it yesterday and a little bit today just to feel it. It is. First off, the 3-inch MyPillow mattress toppers are out of this world. We have one, but we don't have the 2.0, which is a major upgrade.
This is what this one is.
It does for your body what the MyPillow 2.0 does. Your body is the perfect temperature. It
We'll
feels
have to get
so
one for our
good.
bed.
Well, anyway, the 3-inch MyPillow mattress topper 2.0 is absolutely amazing. If you go to mypillow.com, you can order it for 40% off and free shipping when you use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. It makes a great gift for Mother's Day, guys, okay? Mom will love it. Your wife will love it. And if you get it for your wife for Mother's Day, you'll get the benefits of it too. So anyway,
that's true.
It's 40% off and free shipping at checkout at mypillow.com, but you've got to use our promo code KANE at checkout. All right, so President Trump, he posted a whole bunch of stuff up on True Social this week of him talking about different issues, and I pulled up 2 of them. One of them is President Trump talking about Governor DeSantis. Okay, so let me play this. This is President Trump talking about Ron DeSantis, and I think he's, of course, spot on as always.
This is just out. I guess that Ron DeSantis is not quite as popular in Florida as people thought. I assume, among other things, that they don't want their Social Security cut or their Medicare cut. Can't do that, Ron. Ron DeSantis is a young man who is not doing well against me in the polls, to put it mildly. I believe that if he decides to run for president, which will only hurt and somewhat divide the Republican Party, which we don't need, he will lose the cherished and massive MAGA vote and never be able to successfully run for office again. I believe that. If he remains governor, which is what Florida voters assumed he would do, it would be a whole different story. Just saying. But who knows?
Okay, yeah, so President Trump's saying what I've been saying, that
Absolutely.
that Ron DeSantis is unelectable forever. And,
he's right. You're both right.
I want people to understand this, okay? The MAGA movement, the Trump movement, is not just some guy who's running for president like all these other people are, okay? All these other people running for president, even, we were talking about Robert Kennedy in the beginning. Robert Kennedy, he lost his daddy. He's got some daddy issues. He wants to have his own legacy. He's gone through life on his daddy's coattails. You know what I mean? He knows it. Come on. So he's trying to do his own thing. He's trying to elevate himself. Donald Trump is the only person running or who has ever run for president that wasn't running to elevate themselves. And the whole MAGA movement, I describe it quite often as it's a civil rights movement. It's a civil rights movement of Americans taking our country back from the donors and all these foreign interests and our corrupt public officials in the deep state. And anyone who opposes Trump in a primary, I'm done. Now there's some people that come on, they're like a joke, like Larry Elder. I mean, I don't take Larry Elder will be eventually endorsing Trump.
He announced he's running.
Yeah.
He's got nothing else to do.
He's just
Do you think he's trying to be Trump's VP?
He might be in his own mind.
I can't see that happening.
I can see him being secretary of something. It's only a matter of time before he drops out and endorses Trump.
Yeah.
But anyone who opposes him, like Nikki Haley or Chris Christie, they're on my forever list of never trust. And they're because this movement is the most important political movement of our lifetimes, and it's not a time to say, okay, well, I'm going to back somebody else. That's just insane. And anyone who is opposing him, like Ron DeSantis, who they say is going to announce in June, I guess
still,
I haven't heard them change the Florida law allowing him to run for president and be governor.
He's really in a bad spot because he can't be this deluded. Things are not working out the way he thought. I think he thought that once Trump got indicted, he would either pull out or his ratings would completely tank. None of that has happened. He's still in the race. He's beating DeSantis by double digits. So I don't think he expected that to happen. If he doesn't run, he's going to look like a coward. And all these people have put so much time and money into him and effort. The Bushes, Karl Rove, all these guys, they're pushing him. There's a lot of pressure on that end, and his wife, not to mention. But if he does run, he's also in a bad position because there's no way in hell he's going to win. I don't know what he was thinking. Whoever's advice he took was bad advice. But there was a guy who was in Congress with him. I can't remember his name. He was a Republican, and he just came out today and said he was an a-hole. He said, I was on the same committee as him, and I sat next to him, and he never talked to me.
For 2 years.
He said he was an a-hole. I didn't like him. And I said to you the other day, I said, DeSantis isn't getting these endorsements. I said, I don't think it's just about Trump. I said, I think they don't like the guy. I said, maybe the guy's not nice.
Yeah.
And apparently they don't like him because if they really liked him and if they were friends with him, and these are Florida people, okay, so they know him. If they really like DeSantis, it's like the guy's got no friends. Somebody would be backing him. Somebody.
Well,
nobody. The guy must be he must be really disliked.
All these people endorsing Trump are endorsing him because they know if they don't, they won't get reelected.
Well, I think that's the main reason, but I think also they just don't like DeSantis personally.
Yeah.
And from what this guy said, he's a jerk. And like I said, I think by now, of course, maybe they're waiting for him to announce. And maybe when he announces, maybe some endorsements will roll in.
Maybe.
We'll see. But I think he has a really bad reputation in Washington. He was a congressman for a while. And, maybe nobody likes him over there.
Now, this next clip, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Not that that's a bad thing in Trump's case, but,
Marjorie Taylor Greene has a podcast.
Oh,
and
I did not know
it's
that.
pretty good. And she really she lays it all out on her podcast. And this is her. She's talking about Biden this week and Zelensky.
Because of this Ukraine war and Joe Biden being the little slave to Zelensky that he is, all because of Hunter Biden's little business deal with Burisma and others. Yeah. They're not the only ones. America is having to go to war with nuclear Russia. And now we know because of Jack, the 21-year-old National Guardsman that released classified documents in a little chat room for gamers. We now know the real crimes and who the real criminals are in Washington, D.C. And I want you to know, I find it really odd that Jack, the 21-year-old National Guardsman, low level, by the way, who I don't think was the only one and wasn't the one that really got those classified documents. I guarantee you that he got them from somebody. But why is Jack the only one sitting in jail?
Okay. So there's, I agree with everything she says. And this guy
gave them to him.
I don't know. But this guy that they arrested, the mistake he made was bringing him to his gamer Discord group. If he would have given them to the Washington Post or the New York Times,
exactly,
he would be okay.
They would have protected their source. Isn't that what they're supposed to do?
It's really
like give it to Miranda Devine. That's what I would have done.
Well, you got to you get arrested. You got to give it to either the New York Times or the Washington Post, and then you're okay. But, the thing about how this all operates, okay, is we know what's going on in Ukraine. We know it's a big racket so that the politicians can make their money. And these documents proved it. But the biggest thing that came out of the documents is that and you notice you haven't seen any of this in the news. The whole thing's been disappeared. The biggest thing that came out of the documents was evidence that U.S. troops are on the ground in Ukraine in combat operations against Russian troops, which means Russians may have killed Americans and Americans may have killed Russians. And this is not a good thing. This is how the Third World War begins.
Yep.
And these liberals in the media, we were talking about the Vietnam War era. These liberal peaceniks are all for war here, and things are escalating.
Which is so ironic because they were all against the war back in the 70s, and now they're all for war.
Well, not even then.
Isn't that kind of weird?
They were against all the wars after the attacks on America in Afghanistan and Iraq. And now, not only are they for a war, they're covering up what's going on. And let me tell you,
come full circle.
A third world war could happen right quick if U.S. and Russian soldiers kill each other in Ukraine. It may have already happened. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you so much. And, all of you who are Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. So make sure you go to the Patreon page and check that out. When I upload the podcast, all the podcast platforms and YouTube and all that, I upload the commercial-free edition to the Patreon page. And
That's right.
All of you that are Patreon supporters have access to that. And if you'd like to become a supporter of the program and become a patron of the program, there's a link to our Patreon page in the description of this and every episode. The direct website address is patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow, patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout out on each and every podcast episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P, Carlos, Paulette, John, ActicFox, K-Mac, and Cindy. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all for your support. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in. We will talk to you next time.
Hey, good morning, Brian. It's Lisa, and my husband and I received our My Pillow 2.0 that we ordered with Kane the other day, the buy one, get one free, and they're our first My Pillows, and we love them. We absolutely love them. They're just absolutely marvelous. Yeah, I'm so glad. I got slippers on the way, too.
Go to MyPillow.com and use our promo code Kane at checkout, K-A-N-E, and buy your My Pillow 2.0. Right now, buy one, get one free. You can also order by phone, toll free, 800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. Promo code KANE. Are you a truck or car enthusiast looking to upgrade your ride? Look no further than GroundZeroCustoms.com. GroundZeroCustoms.com is an online store specializing in aftermarket performance and appearance upgrades. They have a vast inventory of high-quality parts and accessories, and they have everything you need to take your vehicle to the next level. GroundZeroCustoms.com offer the best brands in the business, including Baja Designs, Mickey Thompson Tires, 4Play, and that's just the beginning. Whether you're looking for lighting upgrades or suspension modifications, they have you covered. Plus, GroundZeroCustoms.com understand that each vehicle is unique, which is why they offer a wide range of specialized parts and accessories. Upgrade your ride and make it truly your own. Go to GroundZeroCustoms.com and discover the possibilities. You will find an unbeatable selection and everything you need to take your vehicle to the next level. Start shopping right now at GroundZeroCustoms.com.